Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. Last Tuesday night, I came home from work carrying the same leather briefcase I'd used for 5 years. When I opened the door, Jenny was standing in the living room with a suitcase at her feet. Her coat was draped over the armrest like she'd rehearsed the scene. "Connor," she said, not even offering a hello. "We can't keep doing this. You've become predictable. Everything about our lives is just routine. I can't breathe in this." I set the briefcase down and looked at her. "So, this is how it is? You're packed before we even talk?" She shifted, avoiding my eyes. "I need something different. I need someone who makes me feel alive, someone who actually takes chances." I walked past her and sat on the couch. "That line sounds like you lifted it straight out of a paperback," I said. "So, who is he?" Her jaw tightened. "This isn't about another man." "Then why's your phone lighting up with a rideshare notification right now?" I nodded at the screen buzzing. "Seems like perfect timing." Her face went red. "Connor, don't twist this. We've grown apart. You spend your life buried in work, paying bills, and sitting in front of the TV. I can't waste my years like this." I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "You want excitement. Fine. But don't pretend this is self-discovery. You've already chosen your next chapter." She grabbed the suitcase handle. "I'm done explaining. You'll never understand." "You're right," I said, standing. "I don't understand abandoning a marriage like it's last season's fashion. But I do understand contracts. Tomorrow morning, I'll call Claudia Varela. She'll have papers drawn up." Her eyes widened. "You're not even going to fight for us?" I actually laughed. "Fight for what, Jenny? A woman who's halfway out the door? That would be pathetic." The door shut behind her. The next morning, I was at my desk before sunrise with a notebook and a black pen. No pacing the floor, no whiskey in hand, just a list. Step 1, separate bank accounts. Step 2, freeze joint credit cards. Step 3, lawyer. By 9:30, I'd already called the bank, canceled every shared card, and moved my salary into a new account. At 10, I left Claudia Varela a voicemail. She called me back within 30 minutes. "Connor," she said, voice sharp and efficient. "I'll draft the separation documents today. She'll sign them fast if she's as ready to leave as you say. I'll need your asset list before noon." "You'll have it in 30 minutes," I replied. I had already scanned every record, savings, retirement accounts, even the lease paperwork. At 11, I called Silvio Marquez, the landlord. "I'm breaking the lease early," I told him. "That's going to cost you a penalty," he said. "I'll pay it. Just tell me when I can be out." "Next week if you want." "Surprising to hear from you, Connor. You always paid on the dot." "Still will," I said. "Just at a different address." By noon, movers were scheduled for Friday. I'd found a 2-bedroom house 10 minutes from my office. The rent was lower than what Jenny and I had been paying for the apartment she insisted was perfectly central. At lunch, I received a text from Jenny. "I hope we can talk soon. This isn't easy for me either." I read it once and deleted it. There wasn't anything left to talk about. That night, I packed deliberately. Half the closet was already empty, but that just made things easier. Clothes in boxes, books stacked by the door, files labeled. No hesitation, no looking back. By the time I zipped the last bag, the apartment already looked less like a home and more like a temporary stop. Which is exactly what it was now. A week later, I was unlocking the door to my new place. For the first time in years, every item inside those walls belonged to me alone. The next morning, I left the house at 7 and parked at my office 10 minutes later. No 40-minute drive across the city. No detours to pick up some package Jenny urgently needed. Just a direct route, quiet streets, and an empty parking lot. At work, my manager noticed the change. I was early, focused, and sharper than I'd been in months. The move was already paying off. That evening, I got a call from Victor about a late pickup game. I hadn't played in weeks, but this time there were no excuses or obligations. I showed up. We played until 10. No distractions, no tension, just movement, noise, and space to breathe. Back at the house, I set up a soundbar I'd ordered. One click, no permission needed. The bass filled the living room. Jenny used to complain about unnecessary expenses. That night, it sounded like freedom. Lying in bed, I realized something she'd never admit. What she called boring was just peace. And peace, it turned out, wasn't dull at all. It didn't take long for whispers to reach me. A coworker, Maria, who handled client accounts, leaned across my desk one afternoon. "Connor, I saw Jenny last weekend. She was with some guy. Tall, slick haircut, expensive watch. Looked like a movie character. You know anything about him?" I shook my head. Not my concern. But later that evening, Victor filled me in. Name's Darren Holt. Calls himself an entrepreneur. Word is he's pitching some health tech app that doesn't even exist yet. Lives off credit lines and charm. I wasn't surprised. Jenny always wanted flash over substance. 2 days later, Silvio Marquez, the landlord, left me a voicemail. "Your wife came by asking if you'd left a forwarding address." I told her no, figured you'd want to know. That confirmed it. She hadn't just moved on, she was already sniffing around for a way back into my orbit. The next week, I got an email alert. An attempt had been made to add my name as guarantor on a retail account. Denied instantly, because I'd frozen my credit the morning after she left. I forwarded the notification straight to Claudia Varela. She called back within the hour. "Good thing you listened to me, Connor. Paper trail like this is valuable. Keep every notice, every log. If she or anyone linked to her tries to involve you financially, we'll have proof you secured yourself early." Thanks, Claudia. I figured it was only a matter of time. That night, I sat in my living room and thought about how predictable all of this was. Jenny had walked away, claiming I was too boring, too safe. Yet within 3 weeks, she was tied to a man who couldn't keep his own name clean on paper. Boring wasn't the insult she thought it was. Boring was protection. And right then, it was the only thing keeping me free. It was a Thursday afternoon when Jenny showed up at my office building. I was stepping into the lobby, coffee in hand, when I heard my name. "Connor." She stood near the reception desk, hair styled, heels clicking against the marble, but her eyes were restless. I walked past her without stopping. "You shouldn't be here." "Don't do that," she said, trailing behind me. "You're punishing me, and it isn't fair. I just need a small favor. A signature. Darren's got a deal lined up, and if you just—" I turned on my heel. "A signature? You mean like the one someone tried adding to a store account with my name attached? The one that got blocked because I already froze my credit?" Her face went pale. "That wasn't me. Darren he needed a little help getting things moving. You're acting like I'm the enemy. You left with a suitcase and a speech, Jenny. Enemy isn't the word I'd use, but don't confuse me for your safety net." Her voice dropped to a pleading tone. "Connor, you're being cold. After everything we had—" I cut her off. "What we had ended when you traded stability for fireworks. You wanted excitement, now you've got it. Don't ask me to co-sign the fallout." 2 security guards had drifted closer, keeping a respectful distance. Jenny glanced at them and then back at me. "So that's it? You're really just walking away from me like I'm nothing?" I took a step toward the elevator. "You made that decision, not me." The doors opened, and as I stepped inside, I added, "If you show up here again, security won't be the ones asking you to leave. I will." That night, I joined a group dinner with colleagues. Across the table, Camila Duarte from operations laughed at a story someone told. When she caught my eye, she smiled. Simple, genuine, no drama in it. And I realized how good that felt. By the 4th week, Darren Holt's shine had worn off. Word spread fast in circles that thrived on gossip. Victor called me one night after practice. "You'll want to hear this. Darren's wellness app pitch collapsed. Investors pulled out. He skipped town, left Jenny holding bills she can't cover." I wasn't shocked. Jenny always confused flash with value. The very next evening, a text slipped through from an unknown number. "Connor, it's me. Please, I need to talk. Everything's fallen apart. Darren left, and I'm in serious trouble. Just one conversation." I stared at it for a long moment before deleting it. But she didn't stop. Different numbers, same tone, urgent, desperate, begging for a meeting. Finally, I agreed, but only in a public setting. A cafe, midday. Claudia Varela knew where I'd be and had advised me to record the encounter. Jenny walked in late, sunglasses hiding tired eyes. Her once perfect composure was cracked. She sat down across from me, voice trembling. "I made mistakes. I thought Darren had something real. He drained my savings, sold my car, and maxed out credit cards. I can't even pay rent. Connor, we need to revisit the settlement. I signed too quickly. I wasn't thinking straight. I kept my hands folded on the table. No mistake was made. You signed because you were sure. What you're asking for now is a second chance to undo consequences. That isn't happening. Her voice rose. You're really this heartless? After 5 years of marriage, you won't even help me get back on my feet? I leaned forward slightly. I'll give you one thing, a non-contact agreement. You sign it, and you stop dragging me into your chaos. That's the only paper I'll ever put in front of you again. She froze, then pushed back from the table. You'll regret this. I stood as well. No, Jenny. Regret belongs to you. For once, I didn't feel like the boring one. I felt like the one who had seen the storm coming and built higher ground. A week after that cafe meeting, Claudia called me from her office. She tried filing a complaint through a mediator, Claudia said flatly. Claimed the separation was rushed, that she deserves more. But we've already submitted timestamps. Your account freezes, the credit alerts, her texts about signatures. It's airtight. The mediator dropped it before it even started. Good, I said. I don't want her circling around my life again. That night, as I was unpacking a bookshelf in the living room, my phone lit up with the doorbell camera. Jenny was on the porch. Hair messy, jacket wrinkled, eyes red like she hadn't slept. It didn't take me long to figure out how she'd found me. She must have tailed me from the office. Predictable, invasive, and desperate. She started knocking, then pounding. I opened the door just enough for the camera to catch her face. You're trespassing. Leave now. Connor, please, she begged. I have nowhere else to go. Darren vanished. I'm broke, living out of a friend's car. You're the only person I have left. I kept my voice steady. You had me. You decided I wasn't enough. That's a choice. Choices have weight. Her hands shook. I thought I wanted adventure. I thought I needed someone different. I was wrong. I need stability. I need you. I almost laughed. Stability? The same thing you mocked as boring? You're not asking for me, Jenny. You're asking for a bailout. I won't give you one. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Connor, can't we at least talk about being friends? I stepped outside, making sure the camera recorded everything. Friends don't file fake claims. Friends don't try to sign your name on debt. And friends don't call you boring, then crawl back when their gamble explodes. She stared at me, waiting for some crack of sympathy. Instead, I gave her the only line she'd remember. Welcome to the wife regret statistics, Jenny. You just became another number. Her shoulders slumped like the words had knocked the air out of her. She turned, walked down the steps, and disappeared into the night. After that night, the calls and knocks stopped. Claudia confirmed a week later that Jenny had signed the non-contact agreement, probably realizing it was the only thing keeping her from a restraining order. The settlement gave her what she asked for, freedom. No alimony, no assets, just a signature and silence. Life went quiet again, and quiet was exactly what I wanted. At work, Harold Benton stopped me in the hall. Connor, whatever changes you've made, keep them. Numbers are up, clients are happy. You're sharper than I've seen in years. 2 nights after that, I had dinner with Camila Duarte. Nothing dramatic, no rushing into declarations, just good food and conversation that didn't circle back to money problems or imagined slights. She laughed easily, and when she asked about my new house, she didn't sound like she was calculating what it cost. When I drove her home, she said, Connor, you don't strike me as boring at all. You strike me as someone who knows where he's going. I smiled at that. Funny, I've been called the opposite. A month ago, Jenny had walked out, accusing me of being too predictable, too dull. 1 month later, she'd shown up broken, begging, a living example of the very statistics I'd read about late at night after she left. Regret wasn't mine to carry. It belonged to her, and her alone. Inside, the house was clean, quiet, and mine. No drama, no noise, no endless demands. Just peace. I poured a glass of wine, turned on the sound system, and sat back in the chair by the window. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to justify who I was. Boring? Maybe. But it had kept me standing while her so-called excitement had burned everything to the ground. And that, I realized, was the best ending I could have asked for. Thank you for watching. Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I set the table the way I always did when I wanted her full attention. 2 plates, 2 glasses, steak with pasta, nothing fancy but made with care. Mandy came down the hallway in a red dress I hadn't seen before. The fabric caught the light like it was meant for cameras. She stopped when she saw the table. "You didn't have to cook," she said, picking up her clutch. "I wanted to," I answered. "Sit down. Eat first. You don't have to go." Her heels clicked against the floor as she crossed the room, but she didn't sit. She leaned against the chair instead, already halfway gone. "Kevin, it's not just some party. Isaac invited me. This could change everything at the firm." "Or it could be nothing," I said. "You know how these private parties work. Too much wine, too many promises. I've got a bad feeling." She laughed, quick and sharp, but it wasn't real. "You sound dramatic. Isaac's brilliant. He sees potential in me. Do you want me to throw that away because you're uneasy?" I kept my voice steady. "I want you to stay. That's all." She shook her head, annoyed. "You're overthinking this. I'll be back in a few hours." The door shut harder than it needed to. I sat down at the table alone. An hour passed. Then 2. I told myself she was caught in traffic, maybe out of service. At midnight, I was still there, staring at the untouched plate across from me. When I woke in the morning, her side of the bed was untouched. The pillow didn't even look like someone had been there. That was the moment I knew. She was gone. The first day, I told myself not to overreact. People stay out late. Maybe she went with coworkers after the party. Maybe she crashed at a friend's place. I worked through Saturday in silence, checking my phone every half hour. Nothing. By Sunday, excuses ran out. I called her number 5 times, straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't want to sound desperate. I texted 2 of her colleagues, Anna and Kelly. Both said they hadn't seen her since Friday and assumed she was home. On the 3rd day, I knocked on Thomas Reed's door. He lived across the street, retired, always watching the neighborhood from his porch. He adjusted his glasses when I asked if he'd noticed anything unusual. "Friday night," he said, "saw Mandy get into a black sedan. Not her car. The driver opened the door for her. Thought maybe you were with her." I nodded, thanked him, and walked back across the street. My chest tightened, but my steps stayed measured. That afternoon, I started laundry just to keep moving. I emptied the pockets of a blazer Mandy had worn to one of Isaac's earlier parties. She had been to a few of those lately, always calling them career opportunities. Something small clinked onto the counter, a black electronic fob with silver lettering, South Bank Lofts Guest Access. Beside it, folded into the lining, was a valet stub, printed in block letters, Orpheum Tower Garage, 10:42 p.m. 3 days gone. No calls, no explanations. And now I had 2 pieces of proof that she hadn't simply lost signal. I held the fob in my hand, weighing it like evidence in a trial. South Bank Lofts. Event access. That wasn't her world. It wasn't ours. I thought about calling again, but what was I supposed to say? Come home. Pretend I didn't find this? Instead, I slipped both items into my wallet and closed the washer lid. If she wasn't going to give me answers, I'd go looking for them myself. On Tuesday evening, I drove downtown with the fob in my pocket. South Bank Lofts wasn't the kind of place Mandy and I ever visited. I walked straight through the lobby, kept my head down, and pressed the fob against the elevator panel. The light blinked green. The elevator carried me to the top floor. When the doors opened, I stepped into a wide lounge that looked like it had hosted something exclusive. A man pushing a mop stopped when he saw me. "We're closed up here, sir." I nodded. "I won't be long. Did you happen to see a woman here on Friday night? Dark hair, red dress?" He studied me for a moment, then shrugged. "Yeah, I saw her. She wasn't alone. Left with Mr. Grant." "Isaac Grant?" I asked, already knowing the answer. The man leaned on his mop handle. "That's him. Big tipper. Hard to forget." Mandy hadn't just gone missing. She'd stepped into someone else's world, one with Isaac Grant holding the door open. When I reached the garage, I sat behind the wheel for 10 minutes before turning the key. No yelling, no panic. Just a line crossed, and me holding proof in my pocket. If Friday night was the beginning, I needed to know how far it had already gone. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. Mandy and I had shared cloud storage for years, mostly for photos and receipts. She never changed her password. I logged in. Her main folders were nearly empty. Vacation shots, office documents, nothing recent. But deeper down, under a folder labeled Q4, I found 3 new files, all uploaded Saturday morning. The first was a blurred picture, 2 wine glasses on a marble counter, background light soft and unfocused. The second was worse. A short video clip, maybe 5 seconds. Mandy's laugh, the one she used when she wanted someone to feel clever. Then a man's voice, low, steady. "Leave your phone on silent. Trust me." It was Isaac Grant. The third file wasn't an image. It was a draft email, unsent. The subject line, "After the launch." The body read, "Kevin deserves the truth. No more hiding. I'll explain everything in person." I sat back in my chair. She had written out the words but never hit send. Instead, she went silent. I exported everything to a drive, closed the laptop, and stared at the dark screen. It wasn't just that she'd been at Isaac's party. She had planned something beyond it, a conversation she didn't bother to have. None of it was dramatic on its own, but together they painted the picture she refused to give me. I poured a glass of water and walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet, the same as it had always been. But inside, my house was no longer mine. It was just a waiting room for her return, if she returned at all. The evidence was piling up. I didn't need her to confirm what I already knew. What I needed was to see how far it stretched. And that meant going further than cloud files. Wednesday morning, my phone buzzed with a credit card alert. Mandy's joint account had been charged at Harbor House at Lake Crescent, a luxury rental 2 hours away. I looked it up. I didn't pack a bag. I just drove. The highway was empty. By late afternoon, I reached the turnoff, gravel crunching under the tires. I parked where the trees blocked most of the view from the house, but left me a clear angle toward the front. For a while, I just waited, engine off, windows cracked. The lights inside glowed against the falling dusk, shadows moving across the glass walls. 10 minutes passed before the door opened. Mandy stepped out first. Isaac followed, jacket off, sleeves rolled, laughing at something she said. She leaned toward him like it was natural, like they had done it before. They stood there a moment, side by side, unaware of me in the dark. From where I sat, I could see everything without being seen. I didn't need to hear a word. The sight alone was enough. The fob, the files, all of it had pointed here. Now I was watching the answer with my own eyes. The lake house wasn't suspicion anymore. It was proof. On the drive back, I didn't rehearse what I'd say to her. I'd already said everything that mattered before she walked out Friday night. By the time I pulled into my own driveway, I knew one thing. I wasn't going to wait for her return. The silence had been hers for 3 days. Now it was mine. Thursday morning, I walked through the house with a duffel bag. I didn't grab everything, only what mattered. Shirts, tools, and books. The living room came next. I took the blanket my mother had given us and folded it neatly. The record player stayed, but every record came with me. In the bedroom, I emptied my nightstand drawer and carried out my lamp, the one that lit our first apartment. Even the hangers on my side of the closet, I packed those too. It wasn't anger, it was arithmetic, removing myself piece by piece until the house reflected the reality she had already chosen. At the dining table, I set down a sheet of paper, typed, not handwritten. No emotion, just clarity. "Mandy?" I heard Isaac's voice. "I read your draft. I saw where you've been. You had the chance to tell me, and you chose silence. I'm giving you the same, only mine will last." Before leaving, I looked once at the mantel. Our Niagara Falls photo was still there. I slid the picture out and left the frame empty. Glass intact, image gone. Then I locked the door, stepped outside with my bag and my silence, and walked toward the car. This time, there was no waiting, no pacing, no checking the clock, just departure. By Friday night, my phone lit up with her name for the first time in a week. I let it ring until it died. Then another call. Then a text. "Kevin, please answer." I waited 2 days. On Sunday morning, I picked up. Her voice cracked on the line. "Kevin, where are you? I came home and everything's gone." "I left what was yours," I said. A long pause, then softer. "It wasn't what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I told her. "You and Isaac. The lake house. The draft you never sent. You had your chance to be honest. She exhaled slowly. It wasn't love. It was pressure. Isaac made me feel important when I felt invisible. I thought I needed that. But when it was over, I saw it for what it was. I stayed silent. She kept talking. The morning after, he treated me like a prize. Spoke to me in front of colleagues like I was proof of something he'd won. When I told him to stop, he shrugged. Said I'd regret walking away. He never saw me, Kevin. Just a convenience. By Wednesday, he had someone else trailing him to meetings. Her words hung there. The silence on my end forced her to keep going. I know what I've done, she said finally. I ended it. I started therapy. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to hear that from me, not through someone else. Will you meet me? She asked. Just to talk? I agreed to one meeting. Nothing more. We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe on Monday afternoon. She looked smaller than I remembered, hair tied back, no makeup. I ruined everything, she said. I thought if I kept it quiet, I could fix it before you knew. But I was lying to both of us. I stirred my coffee, steady. You didn't ruin everything. Just this marriage. There's a difference. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. So that's it? That's it, I said. 3 hours passed in that cafe. No hugs, no promises, just acknowledgement. For the first time in days, I walked away without looking back. Weeks passed. I settled into a small apartment on the north side, with plain walls and a single chair by the window. It was quiet, and it belonged to me. One morning a letter arrived. Mandy's handwriting on the envelope. Inside, no excuses, just facts. She wrote that she had resigned from Isaac's team, told HR everything, and continued therapy. She admitted she hadn't wanted reconciliation, only to stop lying to herself. She ended with one line. If you ever want to talk, I'll wait. I won't push. I folded the letter, slid it into a drawer, and left it there. 2 weeks later, we met once more, not in secret, not in anger, just at a lawyer's office to sign what needed signing. The divorce papers were ready, the house settlement already divided. She kept the property. I didn't fight her for it. The place was more hers than mine now, filled with echoes I didn't want to carry forward. She looked composed, almost relieved. We exchanged only what was required: paperwork, signatures, and a final nod. No raised voices, no collapse. Just two people closing out a chapter that had already ended long before the ink dried. That evening, back in my apartment, I cooked steak, pasta, the same as that Friday. I set plates, the way I had before. Only this time, there was no waiting, no checking the clock, no silence from across the table. I rinsed the dishes, turned off the light, and stood for a moment in the quiet. Not peace exactly, but something close. Mandy had left for Isaac's party and vanished into silence. 3 days later, I found what she'd hidden, and it changed me. Not in the way she feared, not broken, not desperate. Different. Stronger. She had spent months drifting away in pieces. I had spent holding on, telling myself it was temporary. But it wasn't. And when I finally stopped waiting, I found the one thing she couldn't take: myself. That was the real discovery. And it was enough. Thank you for watching.